I've talked to him a couple times. I don't know him in per se, but like he seems like such a great guy. And you see all the interviews.
Sweet guy, man.
Seems like a great guy. Exactly
he
what
really
you get.
is.
He's exactly what you get when you see in the media or you talk to him. He seems like the same exact person. Nothing really seems like it changes and strays too much far apart. Seems like a great guy.
The one thing. Let's talk about him for a second. He's a true martial artist. Everything about his lifestyle is that way. But
yes, sir.
Let me ask you, being a guy that knows him well, he was thinking about coming back and fighting Khabib. I was looking at saying, "Don't do it, please, don't do it."
And I was too.
How did you feel? Okay,
the same, because to him it was okay. I might. If you're not 100% into it, then you shouldn't fight.
Yeah,
I mean that's how you're going to get. I think, potential for injury. If you're going into the fight, I guess half-ass. You got to be 100% mentally there if you're going to go out there and scrap with somebody. He knows that. So I just didn't want him to have the big wig. The guys pushing him to make that fight happen if he doesn't want to make that fight happen, because, like I said, if you're not 100% in it mentally, physically, emotionally, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I looked at it, and Khabib and Josh have, they're teammates, and he's worked with him so many times, and he's so good. And it's just that you can't just make this something that you do part-time.
Right.
You have to be all in, and you have to be doing it, even though he works out all the time. I know that, but it's just different.
Well,
it is different.
It wasn't so much, sorry to interrupt, but it wasn't so much in terms of that I wanted to see the fight. Of course, I wanted to see that fight, but I also wasn't sure if I wanted to see a 40-year-old GSP fight a young guy in his prime who's a savage, and I've seen him go against guys at 170 that were 3-time, national champs in college wrestling. I've seen him go against top level wrestlers as far as on the Olympic ladder as well. And I'm not saying that he can smash them and beat them every time, but he's getting his takedowns. And I know that GSP's got a wrestling background as well, but at 40 years old, you're not the same person you were when you were 32 and 33. The other thing that concerned me about them potentially fighting is that with GSP, everyone has the utmost respect for him. And I don't want them to have that look in terms of him after, if he was to lose that fight, oh, he was really nobody. He wasn't that good. That's not true.
Yeah.
That's not true at all. And I like both of them. They have a mutual respect for each other as well, which was nice. But what weight were they going to fight at? Were they going to fight at 70? Were they going to fight at 65? Now I'm getting a 40-year-old depleted GSP if he fights at 65. Yeah. There was a lot of questions. It didn't seem, if they were going to fight at 70, I would say, okay, I give GSP more of a chance, but just being younger. And it was even still was kind of a toss up. It's just at 40 years old, it's a lot. It's a lot to put on your plate to come back and do what he was trying to do.
But even then, I bet you a 170 Khabib is even more of a savage than a 155 Khabib. I mean, I hear sometimes he walks around over 200 pounds.
There had been times. I think now he's been keeping himself.
There have been rumors.
There has been times, but also too he has now really I think after the Ali Quinta fight, he really put his weight in check. It was more of he had a nutrition with him all the time. He made sure that he was keeping things on track. I think also too the time that those last months that he spent not just with his father but also with he seemed a lot more focused on what his life was meant to be. What his life was meant to be now. So
and the way Khabib just treats guys, man, and when he's out there, he doesn't make it fun for his opponent at all. Like he smashes people. And I've seen GSP, after a pretty close fight, he doesn't wear it very well.
No,
he doesn't wear it. I mean, his face is banged up. He's taken a lot of punishment, and that's how Khabib fights. He's not that one hitter quitter, knock you out type of guy. He grinds you and makes you give up, and like mentally, he makes you just quit, just give up out there.
Yeah. And
I didn't want that for him. And on top of that, it's like, why at this point? There's no reason for GSP to come back and try and, at least hurt your legacy. If that, like BJ Penn. BJ Penn came back, and I think it did worse for his legacy than anything else, right? If he would have retired and stayed retired, I would be looking at him differently now.
Do you put Conor in that same category right now after his fight last week?
I don't think so. I mean, I kind of agree where he's at. Like, the UFC is not letting him compete. He's their cash cow. and you're going to fight once a year, and it's going to be a big card, and we're going to get millions of dollars for it. He's mentioned in the past he's wanted to compete, but they wouldn't let him. Want to stay active and keep getting better in the octagon, but once a year is just, he thinks it's not enough. And you could tell it. His last fight, he just didn't move like he normally does. He's not on his toes. His
style was completely different.
Right.
He looked like a boxer. He did not look like the mixed martial artist that we all have watched be very effective with a stand-up karate style, very similar to yours. Uses his kicks, basically no kicks.
None. And his opponent, that low calf kick was there all day because he was just plodding forward. So it was there. Normally he's in and out, it makes it hard for his opponent to beat on that front leg, but it was there every time.
Well, what made the difference, I think, for the front leg was that they're both southpaw. So that front leg was now susceptible to being kicked. When he fights other fighters, majority of the fighters he's fought have been conventional. So that it's more of an inside leg kick. And that's why his style works so well, is he's so used to that, checking that inside leg kick and countering with the straight left down the pipe, and then the right hook, and then finishing with the kick or coming back with another straight left. That's been like his token moves since he's been in the game, in terms of this. But then now you fight a good guy who fights left-handed, who's also southpaw, and he's able to tear up that lead leg. That's not something he was prepared for. He talked about it in the press conference.
Yeah, and somebody who's been in there with you before. Yeah. He kind of knows you a little bit. So I agree, man. I agree with both you guys. So we'll see. I hear maybe the fight might be happening again. We don't know.
Well, here's the other thing too, is I look at when you were talking about they're not only letting him fight maybe once a year. There's a couple reasons, I think, for the casual fan at home or for people that just don't understand that, is because they can't afford right now during COVID to give that up, that amount of money to pay. So they had some fans pay this time. But on top of it as well is that you also don't want to lose. If you have him fight twice in a year, it's almost like going to the same venue twice in a year. Yeah. Now people don't buy the tickets. They're like, oh, I'm going to watch him fight next time. It's almost like you've got that hot commodity. Let's do it once a year. And then, when next time he fights, this might be the last one. This might be the last time he fights. And that's what they're doing. They're doing like, hey, I don't want to go to Florida anymore for fights because we've already been there. Let's go to New York. Okay, we went to New York 2 years ago. We can go back now. If you go every year, people aren't going to buy tickets anymore. And so I think that's a big reason why that they did what they did in terms of trying to keep him off. You're not going to buy the pay-per-views if he's going to fight again in 6 months.
Right. So it makes sense for the UFC.
But it doesn't make sense for the fighter.
Yeah.
Not at all. And it's a problem. You got to think about it. Conor's the one that set that fight up with Poirier. He went and basically said, hey, we'll do this for charity. We won't make a dime. And you and I will put it all towards your charity. And he was we'll do it in Ireland. We'll all set this up. And that's when Dana said, oh, this is a fight we need to do. Sure.
Yeah.
They knew there was a little bit of problem. Let's talk about your career. Let's talk about your last fight first off, where you looked phenomenal. Dude, you were all over that. You were moving. You're going against a guy with super heavy hands. How did you get hurt ever by Jeff Neal?
Not at all. Not even the headbutt in the first round dazed me. I knew he headbutted. I didn't know I was cut until probably the beginning, or when I went back to my corner after the first round. I realized I was cut. But I just felt great, man. I was out for a year, broke both my hands in the Vicente Luque fight. Took a little while to heal up. Then the pandemic hit, and then we were shut down for forever. And then trying to find the right fight.